And a good Tuesday evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with you. We're grateful to have you. It's going to be just me tonight, and for better or for worse, till death do us part. I don't know if that's good or bad for you, but it's going to be good for me because I'm grateful to be with you tonight. And we are here. We're going to do some news stories tonight. 3 things we're going to talk about, and then we're going to take your questions on this late night Tuesday. We were sort of waiting a little bit to download some video of this horrendous shooting, or stabbing, I should say, in Charlotte, North Carolina. You know, this actually took place 4 or 5 days ago. The media is just now reporting it. And it is unbelievable, the hypocrisy and the absolute evil that has been unleashed on this country, folks. The criminally insanity of it all, and the justice, the lack of it, and then the media mixing their 3 cents in, the reverse racism, and I want to make it clear I'm fully in support of those that are bringing it out of the basically the texture, or not the texture, but the dynamic of this attack. Mr. Carlos Brown was a black man. This young lady was white. She was from Ukraine. She's a refugee. And look, when you lose Geraldo Rivera, then there is nobody else to lose on the left. But Geraldo is even saying this guy needs the death penalty. CNN today has been busy trying to give sympathy to the perpetrator, not to the victim's family. They won't even call her name. And they're claiming that the people that are racist tonight are the people like us and others that are bringing that component into it. But we're going to talk about this tonight because the country has been through hell itself over the last 5 years. It started in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Go figure that one. Back in 2020 during the summertime when the George Floyd riots broke out over this very same dynamic. It's just reversed. You had a white police officer, and there is millions of questions whether Derek Chauvin was actually a racist cop. He wasn't racist. It was something that went down. There was a history with him and Floyd. And I couldn't even believe my ears when I heard some religious leaders, people that I respected a lot, take the side of George Floyd in this. And they said, well, they saw the video, and it disturbed them so bad that Chauvin did what he did to Floyd. And then come to find out Floyd had all sorts of historical medical problems that probably led to his death, not to mention the fact he was caked up on coke the size of the Atlantic Ocean. But the country went up in smoke. It was the summer of those riots, Black Lives Matter, Antifa. Media was calling every cop in America racist. They were calling this was systematic. This was a absolute confirmation that America was systemically racist because white cops were randomly shooting black folks. And you know what happened. And we're going to listen to some video tonight. Jesse Waters had a guy on there tonight. He was talking about the DEI element of this, that these DEI judges are letting people go because of this very thing. They think that if they give out harsh sentences to people that are convicted of these heinous crimes, that they're somehow being racist if that perpetrator's black. Well, you cannot dictate the sentencing of what somebody is sentenced for a crime based on the color of their skin. That is why the Lady Justice has a blindfold around her eyes, because that justice should be the same for the whites as it is the blacks, the Chinese, for the Hispanics, for the Europeans, for the Americans. Of course, we're talking about our justice system. If you come under this banner, you're an American citizen. I don't care what nationality you are, but if you're an American citizen, the justice system should be blind, but it's not tonight. And we're finding out that this judge in Charlotte was not even, basically didn't even pass the bar, by the way. Our dear friend Buzz Patterson put that out there tonight, that they found out that this lady didn't even pass the bar exam, but she was sitting on the bench. And the promise we talked about last night, if you were with us on last night's program with James, she said that she would release him on a no-cash bail if he made her a promise that he'd show back up in court. And that's like telling an arsonist, I'll give you these matches back if you promise me that you won't go burn down another house. That's about the only analogy I can come up with. And then the media out there tonight, again, you got Brian Stelter. We're going to play the video for you. I'll let you listen to it yourself. I'm not, you don't have to take my word for it, but Brian Stelter himself on CNN is saying that the only people that are racist, that the stoking of this crime, the mentioning of the color of the perpetrator compared to the color of the victim, is the people on X tonight, and they're stoking racism in America. And this same CNN network basically set the country on fire and ablaze in 2020 during the George Floyd riots. Charlottesville, the hoax, the first Trump administration, same issue. And the media, I think it was George Patton, the great general of the Second World War, and he was a hero in many ways, but he made the statement. The Scopes people will say I'm wrong about this, but it sounds like something Patton would have said. He said that the lowest form of scum on this earth. It's just what he said. He said the lowest form on this earth were Democrats. And he said the only people that were lower than Democrats was liberal media. And whether George Patton said it or not, I don't care who said it, but whoever said it was telling the truth. And it's just scummy what's going on in this nation. And we're going to talk about that tonight with some video. We want to say that Israel tonight, last night this time, in the early wee hours of the morning, it happened this morning, which would have been we were sleeping last night when it happened. But they basically took out 7 Hamas leaders. We're going to look at that tonight. And we're going to talk about the Trump connection and talk about how people were freaking out, calling Trump the devil and 666, they still are, when he accepted that plane from Qatar. And we're going to read a tweet to you tonight that may indicate that Trump basically helped the Israelis pinpoint where these Hamas leaders were. And the way he was able to do that was with the help of the Qatari government because of the goodwill that had been shown to him. And he's out there playing good cop, bad cop tonight. He called the event today unfortunate, but he was just saying it was unfortunate in the sense that it was a hotel where Israel had to strike. And a lot of these leaders have been seen on videos praising October the 7th. But they're not praising October the 7th anymore because justice has been served. Now, I know that the world is calling it revenge, and the world is calling it unsatisfactory and illegal. And Israel, the UN head today condemned Israel in no uncertain terms for doing what it did. And we talked about that in the Bible study this morning, that when you live by the sword and you live by blood and you do the things that these Hamas leaders were doing, you're going to die by the same sword. I have no sympathy for the Hamas leadership tonight. I wish they'd have found Jesus before they left this earth. But because they chose the path of violence and they chose the path of terrorism and they chose the path that they did, their retribution came tonight. And it's a warning. It's a warning to all that do this kind of thing, whether it's to Israel or any other nation, folks. And again, this is not a face show tonight, but we're going to talk a little bit about the specific spiritual significance of this too in a little bit, because there's a lot of spiritual significance to it. So we got a lot going on tonight. We shot down another boat, the second boat tonight, and we're going to play that video as well. It's good to see everybody, and again, we're on a late night Tuesday, sort of getting here late, but it's worth it. We usually get the adults in the house. We usually get the adults in the house late night. Good to see Jenny Castellanova, Jason Rankin, Dennis. Chris Davis is in the house over in Facebook tonight. And Anna, good to see Elaine, and a regular crowd coming in to YouTube. Now, I'm going to do a few videos, and we're going to take your questions tonight. If you got a question, you can start putting it in the house, and we'll take them. Not just don't put no paragraphs, just questions and just statements. And we've got an Amber Alert going off here in Hancock County, which is to our east, and thankful my phone didn't blow up there. But we are grateful to have you tonight on this Tuesday night, and we were going to have a guest, but I said, I ain't done this in a while, and we've got guests tomorrow night, Thursday night, and we've got guests Friday night, I think. Back Friday night may be a McJustice show. We'll be on late Friday night, and but we'll be here all week with you this week. But we'll do a Justice show to play some videos and talk about the crime. This probably would fit right in with what we're talking about tonight, really. But I want to come over here, and of course James was on last night, so he's not on tonight. But this old dude is right here, and let me put my camera up here so I can see. You can see me and see my expression with these videos along with yours. And we're grateful to have you tonight on this Tuesday night. And I want to start first with the video of the attack. This is the second cartel boat in a week that has learned the hard way that if you bring drugs to America, this is what's going to happen to you if you live by the drug sword. You're going to die by the drug sword. This was America doing this tonight. There it is right there. That happened earlier tonight. Yep. That was released tonight by the Department of Homeland Security on their X account. So that is not an AI-generated video, as some are claiming, and that is not some fake video. That is actually on their X account. You can find that on X. You can find us on X, by the way, at the McFiles 45. Be sure to subscribe to that. Also, subscribe to our channel tonight if you're not subscribed to it. We don't want our fan club to die, and we had to bury the guy yesterday, that kind of thing. We want you to be be part of what we're doing here. But that's two in a week that have found out the hard way that things have changed here in the Americans. These things have changed at the White House, and we're not going to tolerate their drugs being brought over. Now, we don't have any details on the boat, where it was from. We don't know where it was going. It was going somewhere here in this country. Somebody was waiting for it. That's the thing about the drug trade and these drug events. You can be sure that there is an origin of that, but you can also be sure there's a destination of that. We don't know either tonight, but whether it came from Venezuela, Cuba, or wherever it came from is ultimately irrelevant right now. But whoever's waiting for those drugs are in for a very disappointing evening, because they're not going to make it into the States. And our hats off to the Coast Guard tonight for doing what they should be doing and doing their jobs. And good job there in their destruction of that boat. Here is, I'm going to let Jesse take it from here tonight. This is the DEI situation regarding the revolving door of justice, and then we're going to play some video of this horrific attack tonight, and then get your questions on this, and then show you the CNN take. There's a lot of junk that they've said about this tonight. I want to put this clip up right here. This is not a clip, but this is a slide, and this is from C.J. Pearson, very conservative social media influencer tonight, and I love what he said. There's the young lady. For those of you that didn't hear, folks, this monster, he evidently stabbed her, they think, in her back. Like he reached over. You'll see these videos, and they cut the actual stabbing out. And it's evident that she started bleeding out immediately. And she was so terrified, she had her face in her hands, and then she just fell over dead. And her blood splattered on the floor. And you're going to see other video where 2 or 3 people just sit there and watched her bleed, die, didn't even do nothing, didn't get up to stop him from doing it, nothing. And the FBI tonight is saying that they're going to call it a hate crime, as what it is. It's racially motivated, and that's what it is. The media's not going to like that. They're not liking it tonight. But I love what C.J. Pearson asked tonight. These are the questions that me and you need to ask ourselves tonight. Will there be protests in the streets for her? I can tell you no. Will people demand sweeping changes to society? Nope, they will not. Will people post a square on Instagram for her, like they did George Floyd? Nope, they will not. Hey, I've got a better one. I'll just add to CJ's post. Will the NFL Sunday, will they come out of the tunnel like a bunch of fairies? And you know what I'm talking about. The LA Rams at the time, St. Louis, I think they were in St. Louis, doing their hands like a bunch of fairies, like a bunch of women. NFL players, hands up, don't shoot. That was during the Michael Brown controversy in St. Louis. That was back in 2010. That was about 15 years ago now. Hands up, don't shoot. That was the lie the media pushed with Michael Brown. And come to find out, he didn't have his hands up. He was beating the blank out of that officer that got basically demonized by the press. He was just doing his job. Folks, I'm going to go out on a limb and tell you that Derek Chauvin was doing his job with George Floyd. And I know that the jury of his peers didn't see it that way, but it was they wanted blood, the media wanted blood. The media wanted a head, a scalp, and they got it. And the country went right along with it. And now we're facing this same dynamic tonight. It's almost like we're reaping what we're sowing. We're reaping what we sowed 5 years ago. But now the roles are reversed. Now you got a black man doing this to a white woman with no provocation whatsoever. She's just sitting there. George Floyd provoked that officer in Minnesota. And it went bad. He had so much cocaine in his system, he could have been Cocaine Bob. He could have been there was enough drugs in him, you could have probably killed 10 million people across this country with the amount of drugs he had in his system. I got no sympathy for George Floyd tonight. Just don't. Never did. And I don't mean that to be cold as ice. I'm not. But I'm just telling you, I had no sympathy for the situation. I had a lot of sympathy for what the destruction it did to our country. But the thing that bothered me the most is what we talked about with James last night, is the Christian community didn't side on the side of the police officer. They sided on the side of George Floyd. You had Joel Osteen. I didn't mean to mention his name. You had a leading voice in this country marching down the streets of Houston with the Black Lives Matter protest back in that day. Shouldn't have mentioned his name. It's my bad. But he was marching with the Black Lives Matter people, claiming it was social justice that he was marching for. I wonder if Joel's going to be marching with her family. I wonder if him and all these other religious numbskulls and these morons that are behind pulpits tonight that marched and screamed for the justice for George Floyd are going to scream for this girl now from their pulpit. And I wonder if the NFL is going to have a moment of silence like they did for George Floyd 5 years ago for this young lady tonight. I wonder if she will get a golden casket, which George Floyd did, with politicians weeping alongside it. You had the mayor of Minnesota, this cat that went out there and condemned all the people that demonized the killer that killed the 2 kids at the school here just last week, the violence at the Minnesota school. There won't be no golden casket for her. He won't be kneeling and weeping for this one. This happened in North Carolina. I don't think the governor will say a whole lot about it. The mayor sure won't. The mayor's out there vilifying the people again that are bringing up this man's race. That mayor, by the way, is an election tomorrow. I think it may have been today in Charlotte, or it may have been, it's one day this week, but the mayoral race in Charlotte is going on tomorrow. You North Carolinians and you people in Charlotte, you need to get to the polls and make sure this lady don't see the light of day politically ever again. I'm just saying. Will there be crosswalks and murals painted of her like you've seen all over the country over the last 5 years of George Floyd. Will professional sports teams show solidarity with her? He does mention it. He just didn't mention it as eloquently and as passionately as I did. Will these gay boys in the NFL that was looking like a bunch of fairies walking out of the tunnel doing this? It's like a bunch of fairies. I almost said a bad word. I'm in a wired up mood tonight on this Tuesday night, so pardon me. I'll just go ahead and apologize ahead of time just in case. For a killer. For a killer. For a killer. Not the cop, but for the killer. And they showed solidarity with him, and they've showed solidarity with every crook and thug, because the NFL is full of thugs and wife beaters and cocaine users and dopers. Will corporations donate millions of dollars in her honor? They will not. And will Hollywood actors weep and do selfies? And will sports announcers do it? I remember Herb Herbstreit, when all this went down with George Floyd, the ESPN sports anchor that does all the SEC games with what's his name? Charlie Gibson, not Gibson. I can't even think of the guy's name. You know him. He's on the sports. If you watch the football games, the NFL games, I wonder if he'll have a teary-eyed halftime emotional breakdown where he starts crying and weeping about George Floyd and saying, we've got to end this racism in this country. Or is that only reserved for certain types of people? Is that only reserved for thugs and cocaine dealers and cocaine inhalers and drug addicts? Black drug addicts. And folks, I'm not trying to make this racial tonight, but you can't escape the irony of this. You can't escape the hypocrisy of this. You cannot escape the full-fledged reaping and sowing that this country's doing tonight. And the way the media is handling it, it is absolute judgment. It is absolute judgment on the American media tonight. You have got the Democrats literally supporting him. You got Democrats screaming to their lungs tonight that Trump's crackdown on crime is wrong. That Trump's statements today that we're going to stop this kind of crime in North Carolina, that's wrong. This to them wasn't wrong. Trump's got the Dems applauding crime tonight, basically making this out to be he's the victim. CJ, if you're listening to me tonight, great post. But the answer to all of those questions are no. The answer to all of those questions are no. And this is why they're no tonight. This is Jesse Waters tonight with a guy who, he talks about the DEI situation. Then I'm going to play another video by Jesse. Two good ones tonight on this. I'll let you listen to what he's got to say. This is the DEI situation with this judge. I'm going to get to her next. I apologize ahead of time for my tone tonight. But this is the DEI failure that has caused our country to be violent and cost the life of this Ukrainian refugee, this young lady that did nothing last night or 5 nights ago, whenever this was, but get on a train, headed home, and she didn't make it home. And there's a mother and a father that's heartbroken tonight, and a sister or brother, whatever her family members are. Beautiful young lady that she's now dead and bled to death without anybody on that train helping her.
That I'm witnessing a two-tier America. It seems to me without question, had the perpetrator been a white male with the same victim, we'd have been told, oh look, America is systemically misogynistic, toxic masculinity. If it had been a black perpetrator with a white, if it had been a white perpetrator with a black victim, we'd have been told America is systemically racist to the core. In fact, that has happened on several occasions. When this happens, what do we hear in response? Well, actually, it seems that most of the corporate media have been stumm about the thing. Now, if you take your mind back 5 years to George Floyd, within moments, the media was saying, oh, this is definitely racist. There was some circumstantial evidence. I don't think barely circumstantial evidence that Derek Chauvin was...
There was no evidence that Chauvin was racist. None. The media called him that. The left called him that. Democrats called him that. Tim Walz called him that. Joe Biden called him that. But there was no evidence the man was racist.
Actually racist, horrific as that video also was, and that killing also was, watching it.
And again, I'm just going to come to the defense a little bit of Siobhan. That video was shown at an angle without being revealed that Floyd was wrestling and resisting arrest in that video, which led to him having to put his foot on his neck because Floyd wouldn't do what Siobhan told him to do.
Here we see a different set of standards, and you mentioned DEI there. DEI is the same thing. It's two-tier. It's one rule for one group of people and another rule for another group of people. I say this coming from Britain. In Britain, we have had decades of two-tier system, and there are terrible consequences. First of all, there are more victims. If you don't punish these people, if they are not incarcerated and properly dealt with, if they don't meet the heavy hand of the law, they commit offences again. Secondly, and now this is what we're seeing in Britain every weekend, almost every day, is protests. People have had enough. If people feel that the system is treating one group differently to another, they don't resent the system, they resent the other group.
And that is well said. This is Jesse tonight talking about how the Dems have turned America into this very war zone that you just described to you tonight. We're going to show you these videos. This is Jesse tonight before this video. It's good stuff. That's why I want to play it for
Democrats
you.
are running a national catch and release business. They've set up shop in every major city, from New York to Seattle. The business model, they stop criminals from going to prison so they can spit them back onto the streets. It's a revolving door of injustice, no matter how many dead bodies it creates. From Lake and Riley to Irina Zarutska, Democrats won't ever say their names or show their faces.
And CNN today, and none of the media on the left, has been able to say that girl's name. But they've used DeMarcus Brown's name a lot today, just like they use George Floyd's name, like it was cotton candy and Christmas 5 years ago.
But we will.
For far too long, Americans have been forced to put up with Democrat-run cities that set loose savage, bloodthirsty criminals to prey on innocent people. In Charlotte, North Carolina, we saw the results of these policies when a 23-year-old woman who came here from Ukraine met her bloody end on a public train. A beautiful young girl that never had problems in life, with a magnificent future in this country. And now she's dead.
By the way, CNN excoriated Trump for this. Jimmy Kimmel excoriated Trump for that. Brian Stelter excoriated Trump for that. The left tonight is excoriating Trump for that, saying he's the one stoking the racism, that by him telling you the truth of what happened. And yes, Roger, I've already said that. I know it was in August, and it was at the end of August. They've kept this quiet for about a week, at least that long. And they were trying to make sure this never came to light, folks, because the holy hailstorm that's breaking out tonight in the country is what the Dems did not want, because this destroys their narrative of we white folks are just a bunch of cotton-picking, hateful racists, and we're out to kill black folks. Well, that ain't what happened on that train, was it? No, it was not.
New surveillance video and extreme caution. Viewer warning. Shows Irina just seconds after getting slashed in the neck. She looks confused. She looks vulnerable.
All right, he hit her in the neck. She didn't know what to do. She was, and I want you to look at these lovely cowards. And Corey, your comment already has been noted tonight, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I've got a lot to say about these two in the camera, the one behind. Nobody, folks, nobody stopped and saw the girl. They had to see the stabbing. Somebody could have went over there and at least put their hand on the girl's neck, called 911, did something. They didn't do a thing. And the statement is that she fell. Sean Hannity said tonight that the girl, when all this started happening, she fell out of her seat there and died right there on the floor, her blood spilling on that floor.
Heartbroken. Irina didn't die immediately. She suffered and then collapsed to the floor, unconscious in a pool of her own blood. She came to America because she thought she would die in Ukraine, but she died here.
She is a refugee. She literally came to the United States from a bomb shelter in Ukraine to escape the war, and she was going about her day. She was coming home from work on a light rail train, like all of us do all the time, and she was brutally murdered. After Irina's death, the embassy in Ukraine called and said, "We'll help you bring her home." And her family said no. They said she loved America. We're going to bury her here. So I think we can give her an America to be proud of. As Mr. Barnacle said, something here is broken, and we're here to fix it.
She was
The way you fix it is you put him in the electric chair.
working, she assimilated, but her American dream got cut down on a train. The feds are tacking on a terrorism charge, and DeCarlos Brown, the killer, is facing lethal injection. And there's a bill in play to add options, electric chair or firing squad. But the media says we're just cherry-picking cases to find a white George Floyd.
They've been looking for opportunities to make this some sort of like reciprocal George Floyd situation.
That's the Crack News Network at its best.
And that's the part that I think he's almost giving away the game. And it's sad to see a lot of people going along with it.
Wow.
Big difference here. We're not rioting.
Thank you.
And Floyd was no choir boy.
Thank you.
Irina was an innocent angel.
Come on, Jesse.
And Floyd's death was unintentional. Here, there's no doubt. DeCarlos was there to kill. And he's not just one bad apple. There are a lot of DeCarlos Browns running around. DeCarlos had 14 priors. Wake County, North Carolina, just a few miles away from Charlotte. There's 800 people with 14 or more priors, just from the last decade. Some of them racked up 50 to 70 arrests apiece. And this isn't for jaywalking. Almost all of them have assault charges. They're violent. Yesterday, another North Carolina man, Julian MacArthur, with 30 arrests, stabbed a woman with a drug needle while he was out on probation. Alexander Dickey, 30 years old, 40 arrests. He was just let out of jail and shot a college girl in the ribs, and now she's dead. The dad wants the death penalty.
Logan would want him dead. He is the prime candidate. He checks all the boxes. He rings the bell. He's graduated every step of the way from his crimes. He was arrested 39 times, Trey. 25 of them were felony.
Folks, got to ask a question tonight. How does that happen? How does that happen in the United States of America, where we're supposed to be the world's example for the best justice system in the world? That's sort of scary to think about, that people say that we've got the most fair justice system worldwide, and this stuff takes place. 39 arrests. He's let go. He's walking the streets. He shoots this man's daughter. How does that happen in this good old United States of America? Roll tape.
I mean, this guy wasn't getting any better. They didn't put him in prison so he couldn't be rehabilitated. So, why not? Why haven't they made a statement that they are seeking the death penalty now? I don't understand. It's been 4 months last week that my daughter was executed.
It's not just North Carolina. Every major city has DeCarlos Browns. In Baton Rouge, Anthony Jelks Jr., he had 6 arrests in 6 years, from firearm charges to domestic abuse. And he was let out of jail, put on probation, and then raped a 4-year-old. Gave her an STD. New York City. Remember Michelle?
4-year-old.
Who was arrested over 97 times.
I went to Bloomingdale's. Bloomingdale's and I stole. I professionally obscured some items consisting of polo and Ralph Lauren.
You got a pretty nice shirt on. Did you steal that shirt?
Did I obscure this shirt? I sure did obscure this shirt.
Will you steal even now that you're out on supervised
I have to
release?
give me an outfit.
Okay, so you're going to go steal it.
So I have to go work.
Work is stealing.
I don't call it stealing. I call it professional. I'm a professional booster.
So what are Democrats doing to stop it? Nothing.
The Democrats own this, folks. The Republicans own it to a degree, but this is on the Dems. I got to say this tonight. I might as well just get this off my chest. For you individuals out there that go to that poll or you sit and don't vote, and you allow these Democrats in power. I'm talking to you, New York City, tonight. I'm talking to you. For those of you that are that stupid to let this Muammar Zandami take power, that's going to lead to more of this. For those of you that pull that lever for these Dems, the blood of every single one of these victims are on your hands. And I mean that with everything in me tonight. I mean that. The blood of this girl's on the judge's hands. I saw, Troy, your comment about the people in the train should be charged. I don't know what you can charge them with other than just being a bunch of low-life scumbags. They should have stepped in and stopped the man, at least tried to stop him. If the second that he did something, they could have grabbed him. The guy walked out of the train, looks like, but the girl's blood was all over the floor. They had to see what was happening. They could have helped save the girl's life, but they didn't even lift a finger. The blood is on their hands. The blood is on the governor of New York's hands. The blood is on that mayor's hands. And the blood is sure on DeCarlos Brown's hands. But I'm going to tell you who else it's on. It's on you that put that mayor in power in Charlotte, North Carolina tonight. And who allowed this judge on that bench. By the way, she's a lesbian to top it all off. She's been seen with fishing videos. Her and her partner cooked fish last week. And they were just happy, 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 happy. And this Ukrainian girl's parents are sad, 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 sad tonight because she came over here to escape a war and gets killed in the good old U.S. of A. Keep going, Jesse, before I lose my cool and get in trouble.
Mondami in New York wants to empty the prisons. The police can arrest these bad seeds all weekend, but it means nothing if they're out of jail by Monday. Dumb DAs and DEI judges are just unleashing career criminals like DeCarlos onto the streets, and every time someone gets killed, they say, oops. The woman that let DeCarlos Brown walk with no cash bail, guess who she donated to?
When Brown was arrested yet again in January of this past year, a Democrat judge, who I will add was a strong supporter of former Vice President Kamala Harris.
You can't escape that, folks. You can't escape that. And I know some will say, well, they can't be guilty by association. I tell you what, I'm going to make him guilty by association. It's on the Dems. It's on the Dems. It's on the Dems. It's on the Dems.
Released this insane criminal once again without requiring him to pay any bail. He simply had to sign a written promise to return for his court hearing.
The White House says this is Teresa Stokes.
This is the judge.
Who doesn't even have a law degree, but just made a career criminal and a schizophrenic who beat his own sister when he was out on parole. Pinky promised that he'd behave.
And her pinky promise was, I'll let you out with no cash bail, but you've got to promise me, pinky, pinky, wink, wink, that you'll come back into my courtroom, young man. Now a girl's dead.
Miss Stokes wasn't elected. She was nominated by the clerk. In Mecklenburg County, the sitting clerk is Alyssa Chin Gary. On her LinkedIn page, she calls herself a clerk and a DEI consultant and a racial equity organizer. And her life mission? Reparations.
We are here to honor them, to lift their names, and to continue that intergenerational work that we are required to do to eliminate structural racism.
I got to say something, folks. This is her work to eliminate structural racism. I got a question for you tonight. Let me put it in the YouTube. Let me go ahead and just type this in while I'm thinking about it. And might as well get my money worth out of this tonight. Is not what happened, I'm going to just put it like this, is not what happened in Charlotte structural racism? I'll let you answer that question, and I'll ask it to you this way. This lady is claiming that her goal in keeping criminals on the street to kill Ukrainian refugees and other white folks and other people they can get the hold of, that's eliminating structural racism. Do we not have it going on tonight with what happened to this man even walking the streets with structural racism? It's what happens to you, folks. This is what happens to a nation. This is what happens to a nation that gives itself over to Satan. It's what happens to a country, when we give ourselves over to the devil, this is what we get. We bring the devil home with us.
Ms. Stokes was nominated by Judge Carla Archie. Judge Archie is friends with Eric Holder, Obama's wingman.
Go figure.
And Judge Archie isn't just any judge. In 2019, she was the DEI Champion of the Year. Is this starting to make sense? Did a woman die because of DEI? Just a couple months ago, a guy shot 5 people on New Year's, and Judge Archie sentenced him to 1.5 years for shooting 5 people. 1.5 years. This is a DEI court, and they have blood on their hands.
Now, question. If that would have been a white guy shooting a black guy on New Year's Eve, 5 blacks, do you think his sentence would have been 1.5 years? Folks, that's criminal to me. You talking about criminality? You talking about people that need to be charged in this?
And if the people in robes are on the same side as the bad guys, that's suicide.
Absolutely.
Are you okay with the country committing judicial suicide?
No, I'm not.
I'm not. DEI died when Kamala lost. It's illegal. And releasing felons with dozens of arrests for social justice is a crime against the country. They've set up these dangerous DEI courts in cities nationwide, catching and releasing criminals to prey on innocent people. These courts need to be systematically dismantled, and that needs to happen immediately. Trump says it's time to fight fire with fire.
We cannot allow a depraved criminal element of violent repeat offenders to continue spreading destruction and death throughout our country. We have to respond with force and strength. We have to be vicious just like they are. It's the only thing they understand. 24 of the top 25 most dangerous cities in America are run by Democrat mayors.
Thank you.
And it's time to stop this madness.
Thank you.
The people of our country need to insist on protection, safety, law, and order. We have proven that it can be done.
And Chicago tonight is telling Trump, stay out of our business. Because it's going to happen in Chicago, folks. It's going to happen in these other cities. And by the way, we got 8% of the people that don't believe this was structural racism. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to just be a little McDonald tonight. I hadn't been this way in a long time. This has got me so fired up and fuming mad tonight for many reasons. But put your money where your mouth is. Tell us, send us an email, McFiles forum. Tell me, explain to me why you don't think it's structural racism. Explain to me why you don't think, other than just coming into the chat and wanting to be a jackanapes and vote no to be contrary. But if you got a brain and you want to give your opinion as to why it's not, you feel free to tell us, and I'll even read your comment. I'll put your name out there. Because, see, you know you ain't going to put your name on it. Because cowards never put their names on anything. Chris, you're right. DEI does kill. And I know, Lane, you're saying he's schizophrenic. I don't care if he's schizophrenic or not. I don't care what he is. He's going to fry. He needs to have lethal injection. That's not a defense. That's not a defense. He can go before the judge and claim he's schizophrenic. The judge, if he goes before this Charlotte judge, he's probably not going to get the death penalty. He probably won't be found guilty. You know, if he gets a judge that the North Carolinians seem to be putting out there, he won't get it. Now, I want to say something. Cleo mentions this earlier tonight about Daniel Penny, and I'm glad she did, because it's interesting that that was brought up in a video. And let me see here if I've got that video here. And by the way, the argument tonight is that this killer was not racist, that he did not target her because she was white. Okay? You can believe that if you want to. I'll just let him do the talking. And I want you to watch what he said. This was recorded seconds after he slit her throat. I'll let you decide whether he did it to her because she was white. Let me play that again for the slow tonight, and for those that need this drawn out in crown. And folks, I apologize if I'm a little edgy tonight, but I just think this is a reaping and a sowing. I think we're reaping the whirlwind tonight, and this is going to be the noose. Pardon the pun. This is going to be, if if the Dems keep pushing and keep supporting stuff like this, they will no longer be a political party in this country. But this is his own words seconds after he slit the girl's throat. I'm just a South Georgia boy that lives in Tennessee, at least for now. I'm just an old Southern cracker. I'm just an old Southern redneck. If somebody says, I got the white girl after slitting her throat, common sense would tell us that he did it because she was white. And the video, there's another video, part of this, that was out there that he even went on to say, and her blood is all over the train, bragging about it. That's not being schizophrenic. That's being evil. That's evil. That's being evil. He should not have been on the streets to do it. He should not have been on the streets to do it. I think I've got the felonies, but I'll find that while I'm playing this next video. This is the Daniel Penny comparison. I want you to listen to how the media treated the Daniel Penny situation. Who's Daniel Penny tonight? Daniel Penny was riding a train in New York. By the way, there's rumors he's going to sue Alvin Bragg for malicious prosecution. I hope she does, or he does, yeah. And Bragg brought charges against him when all he was trying to do is save somebody from another man that was trying to stab a lady, and he got the man in a chokehold, and the man died. Alvin Bragg didn't care about the crime that was being committed against the woman who would have died had the man not been stopped. But Penny got charged with attempted murder, and the blacks went crazy, and the world went crazy, and the media went crazy. Here's the Daniel Penny media. Listen to how the media covers them. I'm going to listen to how they cover in this tonight. I hope you're up for a late night with me. I'm not going to stay up too late with you, but I swear I stayed up late a little bit and did this late because I knew I was going to be a little fired up, and I wanted all the kids to go to bed. I wanted to talk to the adults tonight in the house. Roll the tape.
Marine veteran Daniel Penny surrendered to authorities Friday morning to face a second-degree manslaughter charge.
5 to 15 years. Is that enough for someone who choked somebody out on the train?
Wow, 5 to 15 years for somebody to choke somebody out on the train. Now, what this jackanapes didn't tell you is why he choked somebody. He was trying to save a woman's life. So, roll tape. This is the media's. This is the meth-induced media for you.
And took their life.
The Neely supporters have been taking over streets and subway platforms, calling for an arrest.
Neely supporters say the acquittal is rooted in racism.
Neely supporters have been protesting, saying they wanted charges to be brought against Daniel Penny.
Bragg went on to say, quote, Jordan Neely should still be alive today.
And the person who killed him was not held responsible.
I don't know if he needs to hold him for 6 minutes.
I think it's a tragedy that Neely is dead today.
Multiple people testified that he didn't approach anyone in a threatening manner.
The lunatic just got up and started to viciously stab. She's just sitting there.
The silence from legacy media and Democrats is deafening.
This man was arrested 14 different times and was still able to walk free amongst us all.
Way, look at that. Let me back that up. That's what that last little part there. Somebody needs to take a screenshot of that. Let me just do it right there. There it is. Demonize the Good Samaritan. That's what they did to Penny. Came this close from going to jail for the rest of his life, folks. If Alvin Bragg would have had his way, he would have. Yeah, that same Alvin Bragg. Letitia James's good old friend. Protect the predator. The silence of the media, folks, if it would not have been, and Roger, your point was well taken. I wasn't taking issue with what you're saying. I know what you were saying is right. It was in August, and they did try to keep it hush-hush. If this wouldn't have got blowed up off on X, and that's why you can thank God for social media and the alternative media, because the mainstream media, you would have never heard about this. But they're protecting the predator tonight. That's why they're protecting the illegals tonight. Folks, I hope you saw, we had a video we played on the radio show today. Tom Holman, he slapped the Minka Brinsky out of Minka Brinsky today on MSNBC. He let them have it. We're going to play that for you tonight before we get out of here. I'm getting a little wired up on this Tuesday night. But that's the Democrat way. That's the Democrat way, and it's a lot of Republicans' way too. I know I'm coming down on the Dems, folks. I've got just as much disgust for the Republican Party as I do the Dems. I'm not a partisan. I don't give two-bit pins what party they are. But this criminality, this crime in America that's not being dealt with and the silence, I look at it this way. The Dems are out there protecting the predator. The Republicans protecting them by their silence. This crap could be stopped. That judge, the North Carolina Assembly, could be impeaching that judge right now. It's almost 11 o'clock in the East. She should not have a job. By the time we wake up tomorrow, that judge should have been stripped of every duty that she's got. It could happen in one vote. 15 minutes, North Carolina. You can impeach a judge. So Republicans, don't think that I'm letting you off the hook. Somebody needs to take a screenshot of that, but that's the Democrat way. But Cleo's right. Part of the reason that the people didn't move and probably didn't go to help because in this sick, messed up, meth-induced world that we live in tonight, they would have been charged. If something would have happened and that predator got hurt and they stopped him and he got his arm bent or he twisted his arm wrong or he got injured, his family would have been out there suing tonight and suing North Carolina, suing the trail station, suing those people that you sit around. I'm not giving them a pass. I'm not saying that I agree with them sitting around, but I understand why they did. That's how messed up our country is. That's how messed up our country is. That is how messed up our country is. And the one that says he's demon-possessed, you think? It don't take a theologian to see that. But he's not the only one demon-possessed. I got something to say about the demon-possessed in a minute. This is Charlie Kirk today. This is the media. I got to play Steltzer's comment. Because Steltzer, here's Greg Gutfeld. Let me do Greg Gutfeld's take, and then I'm going to play Steltzer's comment and CNN's take on this. It's going to blow you away. This is Greg Gutfeld tonight on The Five. I love Gutfeld. I really do. He's a good man. And this is what he had to say about it. Roll tape.
I'm tired also of the term mental illness being used as a cover for criminality.
Come on, Greg.
When a thug targets a woman, that is not insane. He knows she's weaker. When he comes from behind with a knife, that's not insane. He minimizes her ability to inflict harm on him. When the thug flees, that's sane because he knows if he stays, he'll be arrested. So what would be insane would be if he were to face off against a man without a weapon, somebody like a Tyrus. That would be insane. You'd go, okay, that's crazy. But almost all of these people that do this stuff, they go after women. That is not insane. That's self-preservation.
National news.
This is not insanity. It's an evil mind. And it's an evil mind that is somehow excused in a culture that weaponizes victim status. In this case, mental illness. And what is it about a society that contributes to this? And I say this based on my own personal evidence of being on city streets every single day in New York, that when a homeless person is shouting at people, he's not shouting, I really made a mess of my life. Boy, I really screwed up. No, his aggression is purely blaming other things and other people. He blames the world, he blames people, he blames you. So we're living in a progressive ideological nightmare where the worst in society is empowered by a sense of victimhood. So when this happens, they will still get people like Brian Stelter that says, oh, be careful of the racism, or other people saying, you know what, we really need to be concerned about our services to the mentally ill, which may or may not be true.
Yeah, Governor,
he needs to be executed. Lastly, I asked Grok for a conservative count of the number of times the George Floyd video was played, looking at tweets and social media, Instagram, news.
Come on.
It came to a conservative number of 975 million times. That is not counting retweets. So that is a snapshot of this liberal disease, the hierarchy of problems. The media and politicians, people like Stelter, implore you not to cover one problem, but to amplify another one to a destructive degree that leads to riots, leads to dozens of deaths. But do not cover this other thing because that is racist. And that is not as important. In the hierarchy of problems, we decide what you cover.
And that is true. Here's what he's talking about. This is Brian Stelter. I'm going to play his comment alone, then I'll pray him on a panel tonight. He's telling us tonight that talking about this is racism. It's stoking racism. This is the Crap News Network for you. This is why that people like Brian Stelter, we have directions on Pop-Tarts.
Really, over the weekend, Elon Musk, Charlie Kirk, other Trump-aligned figures succeeded in making this senseless death a symbol of big city crime.
Let me stop and choke on my spit just a second. Did not the Dems make this incident of George Floyd the issue of 2020? Did not the Dems bring this country to a halt? Did not Black Lives Matter bust glass out, tear buildings down, burn buildings down, call every white person in America a racist, call every cop in America a racist? Did not this same network? And you heard Gutfeld, folks, 975 million times that video of George Floyd getting handled by Derek Chauvin was played 975 million times. I wonder what the number will be of this video. But this is racism, according to CNN.
We heard President Trump asked about it yesterday when he was...
So what?
Heading home from New York City. He didn't seem to know much about it. He said he would get briefed, and then today, Trump did know all about it. That's exactly what has happened here. This story has trickled up from local news to social media and now to the president.
And they never wanted it not to trickle up because of the dynamics and basically the optics of this, folks. It cannot be worse for the Democrat Party that has shoved down our throats for nearly 2 decades that the only racist individual, the only racist people on this earth, the only people that hate are you white folks and you white cops. The only racism, the only hate that's out there in this sick, sin-infested, demonically controlled world tonight are white cops and white people. And white conservatives and mega people with hats on that says make America great again. That's the only people that want to slit people's throats. That's their narrative. And this busted that to pieces. So that's why they didn't want it to get from the local stage to the national stage. And thank God that it did.
Its attention, and it's being used, as you said, Brianna, as a political symbol, with MAGA media calling for more forceful punishments and more incarceration.
Kamala Harris arrested more black men in the history of any DA in California's history. So give me a break, Brian.
I have to say, some of the replies to Musk, some of the comments around this story are baldly racist, stoking fear of African Americans because this man attacked a white woman.
No kidding.
The open racism on sites like X today, it's eye-popping. But there are also legitimate questions about this so-called career criminal, someone who had been a repeat offender.
14 times.
And those questions, I hope they're not lost amid all of the cesspool kind of comments on social media.
The only cesspool on social media, is CNN. It's CNN. I got to show you this, folks. Let me download this, and I'll show you the pass that he's sort of referring to there. I took a picture of the screenshot tonight. Let me make sure I get my glasses on. I don't want to misread this. He was arrested, charges for speeding, communicating threats, and injury to property, dismissed by prosecutors. February of 2015, convicted of robbery with a dangerous weapon, released 6 months early. 2024, 2025, arrested 3 times for misusing 911, nothing done. August 22nd, charged with first-degree murder. April the 2014, convicted of felony larceny and breaking and entering. Judge suspended the sentence then. September of 22, he was arrested for assault on a female and injury to property. In July 28th, a judge requested a mental capacity evaluation. And then on August the 22nd, this white girl lost her life. That's the evolution of madness. That is the evolution and the epitome of madness. I got to get off of this or I'm going to lose my cool and say something that I'm going to probably regret for a long time. Not that I ever say anything that I don't regret later on the show. But it's getting hot. It's just getting hot. Here is a couple of other things. I'm going to get into the Kirk Van Jones thing maybe Thursday night. If we have it, we're going to have a show Thursday night. This is called The Disrespected Trucker. He said, we want to know or need to know who these cowards are. You watched a woman die. You are absolute pieces of garbage. I despise your inaction. I despise your lack of morality. I despise you. They were. What do you call it? What do you call it? They were not participators, but they were observers. They were just watching this. And spectators is what I'm looking for. They were spectators. And disrespected trucker has a point, because I share the same disgust. And this is another angle of that. This is I think this is the, I've already mentioned C.J. Pearson's. That was his tweet there. I've already covered that tonight. There was a brush up with Abby Phillips, and we're going to go on after this. I'm going to move on to something else because there's really much not more we can say. This is Erin Barnett tonight on all this. She's blaming Trump for this. She's blaming Trump. CNN is blaming Trump for this. They always find a way to blame Trump for something. I'm going to take your questions. We're in good shape. I got to cover Israel, and I'm going to cover one other quick thing, and then we're going to take your questions. So stay with me tonight. This is a Tuesday night, late night, lights out, cowboy hat, McFiles special.
Horrific new video of a Ukrainian refugee's murder caught on camera. It is absolutely horrific. Trump is now seizing on this to push his nationwide.
Trump is seizing on this to push his nationwide crackdown. So CNN is telling you tonight that Trump set all this up to crack down on crime. Only the Crap News Network would come up with such reasoning.
Tonight on 360. The stories that matter. Anderson Cooper 360.
And that's her. That's a little commercial. They didn't clip that enough. But that's the CNN take, that Trump is using this to capitalize on a crackdown. This is Will Cain with Sandra Smith today. And then I'm going to play Erin Barnett. Abby Phillips, roll tape.
On August 22nd, this was a couple of weeks ago, and the media had to be goaded into covering it once the video came out. You talk about all the coverage, the breathless coverage with Daniel Penny. You talk about how media and politicians love to talk about migrants and refugees. Look how much coverage Kilmar Abrego Garcia got. How many press conferences were there for him? How many people flew to El Salvador to visit him? Where are the press conferences for this young Ukrainian woman? It's been crickets.
It has been crickets, except when they're calling us racist that are covering it. Here is Abby Phillips with Van Jones discussing the situation, and then I'm going to play you Charlie Kirk's response to the CNN losers. Roll tape. I just had it. What did I do with it? I just had it. There it is, right there. This is CNN's take tonight.
Want to be there.
Yeah, and it's
about forcing them to be there.
When you are mentally ill, you have a hard time knowing that you are mentally ill. But also, people like Charlie Kirk, Van, they've been looking for opportunities to make this some sort of reciprocal George Floyd situation. And that's the part that I think he's almost giving away the game. And
no, the only game, Abby, the only game is, if this had been reversed, you and Van Jones would have been out there calling every white cop a racist and systematic racism. We have always known America was a racist country. We know them white crackers are a bunch of racists. We know the whites are racist.
It's sad to see a lot of people going along with it.
Let me just say a couple of things. One is, what happened to that young woman was horrible. And it's everybody's nightmare. If you're in any public space, a subway, whatever, that something bad's going to happen to you or somebody you care about. So it does strike a chord. We don't know why that man did what he did. And for Charlie Kirk to say, we know he did it because she's white, when there's no evidence of that, it's just pure race mongering, hate mongering, it's wrong. Then he says that if something like that had happened the other way, there'd be sweeping changes imposed on society. Where is the George Floyd Policing Act? It didn't pass. Even when you had a white police officer murder a black man on live television, the whole world saw, there were no sweeping changes. In fact, not one law was passed at the federal level. So I think that's an important thing to point out. The other thing is, you mentioned the thing about cashless bail. I think this is a big challenge that we have. Would you have felt better if there had been cash bail? and the mom had come and put down $1,000 to let him out. It's not about cashless bail or no cashless bail. It's about the fact that we don't know how to deal with people who are hurting in the way this man was hurting.
We don't know how to deal with the way this man was hurting. Van, where's my color crowns out? Where do I need to get color crowns out? This man wasn't hurting, Van. This was not a matter of hurting. This man was evil. There's a difference. And by the way, Van, there was evidence he was doing this racially. He was out there bragging that he got the white girl. Do I need to draw that in crown for you, Van? I think I do. I think I do, folks. I'm a little wired up tonight. And again, I apologize if my tone's a little probably not so kind tonight. Maybe I shouldn't apologize for it. But, you know, this stuff burns me to the core.
Hurt people hurt people. What happened was horrible. But it becomes an opportunity.
See, he's trying to cover his tracks. This is the hypocrisy of the left. Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. But you whites are still a bunch of racists.
For people to jump on bandwagons, and then for someone like
jumping on bandwagons, Van? Jumping on bandwagons?
Charlie Kirk, he should be ashamed of himself.
No, y'all should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of your network. Your network is nothing but a meth-induced abyss of hell. Here's Charlie Kirk's response to that.
Van Jones was talking about me, and there's so many lies involved in what he said here. First of all, I never said the first element of what he said. I did say the second part, but this is a very important thing to focus on. So Van Jones is saying I should be ashamed of myself, and just a reminder, the murder of Irina Zarutska, did you know that the attacker said, quote, "I got that white girl"? The attacker racialized this, just for the record. Now, mind you, do you notice that the media all of a sudden tries to play the moral high ground when we start to try to make them live up to the standard that they created and the construct that they forced and the paradigm that they constituted under George Floyd? The moment that we make them have to live up to their own standard, they start to cry foul. As soon as we start to make them live up to the George Floyd standard,
come on,
oh, what is Charlie Kirk racializing this? And by the way,
come on, Charlie.
Van Jones also has a major lie embedded into this whole thing. Listen carefully. Race hustler, Marxist, Van Jones. By the way, Van, you're welcome on my program. I'll treat you well. I will give you an uninterrupted opening statement. Van Jones, if you want to go talk about black crime and urban decay, man, you're always welcome on this program. Because even though, quote unquote, you're an expert in race hustling, I've been around the block a couple times. I know your tricks, and they don't work here. Your magical spells don't work here. Your little hocus pocus, you are racist. Boop, doesn't work here. We got holy water here. Play cut 351.
Charlie Kirk to say, we know he did it because she's white.
We do know. We do know. He said it. The criminal said it.
When there's no evidence of that.
There was evidence of that. He said it, Van. Did you not hear that, Van?
It's just pure race mongering, hate mongering.
Race mongering, hate mongering. Did y'all see the mural that Charlie showed? That mural was over every city in this country with George Floyd. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And Christians were buying into it. Spiritual leaders were buying into it. Big name ministries were buying into it. They were having weepathons for George Floyd. They were literally weeping for this man that was basically resisting arrest when you get down to it, folks. And again, there was enough cocaine in him to kill a horse. And I'm not judging George Floyd, folks. That was George Floyd. But the way that the left and the devil used that situation to literally almost burn down every city in this country. The riots of that summer are vivid in my mind. I'll never will forget that summer of 2020. My hometown of Atlanta liked to went up and smoke over it. This was the left's doing.
It's wrong. Then he says that if something like that had happened the other way, there'd be sweeping changes imposed on society. Where is the George Floyd Policing Act? It didn't pass. Even when you had a white police officer murder a black man on live television, the whole world saw, there were no sweeping changes. In fact, not one law was passed at the federal level. That we don't know how to deal with people who are hurting in the way this man was hurting. Hurt people hurt people. What happened was horrible. Someone like Charlie Kirk, he should be ashamed of himself. No one mentioned the word race, white, black, or anything except him.
Okay, so there's a lot.
There's a lot. Complete lie.
When Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota, was asked repeatedly by the media, was there racial animus involved in Derek Chauvin's actions against George Floyd? He said no, and they dodged the question. Do you know that there is no evidence that Derek Chauvin acted racially?
Thank you, Charlie.
If you think Derek Chauvin acted racially, then you're a racist and parting racial type fantasies and mythologies into a situation of which it doesn't exist. And by the way, just if you're taking notes, Media Matters, George Floyd overdosed, okay? You can write that down, take it to the bank. In fact, we have Ben Shapiro coming up next segment, of which I'm going to have him remind us of all the facts. Anyway, that's not what this is even about. Here is the tweet that I sent out. Quote, if a random white person simply walked up to and stabbed a nice law-abiding black person for no reason, it would be an apocalyptically huge national story used to impose national sweeping political changes on the whole country. Of course this is true. Everybody knows this is true.
And they would be calling for knife control. Because if they stabbed somebody in the back and tried to kill them with a knife, they'd be trying to get your knives now, not just your guns.
Our media thirsts for stories like this. I want you to imagine if a white guy sitting on a bus and a black woman just on her phone, all of a sudden the white guy took out a knife and just stabbed her in the neck repeatedly. How do you think our media would react?
Oh, they would react apocalyptically, like you're saying, Charlie. By the way, let me bring this down to Minnesota. Speaking of Keith Ellison, there was no really outrage coming from the Attorney General's office in Minnesota after this trans shooter killed those two kids last week. And everybody ran to his defense and ran to his defense. Again, it was mental illness. You heard what Greg Gutfeld said. It was mental illness that caused him to do that. No, it was evil. It was demonic. And I'm not trying to lessen mental illness, folks. I'm not trying to lessen that. But, again, it's evident that a lot of these people had had brush-ups with the law. I'm not certain that the kid in Minnesota did, but there was so much evidence screaming at the parents this kid wasn't right. But there was plenty of history with the law in this monster in Charlotte. And I read you the times that he was before judges and they let him go. And now a woman's dead because of it. Charlie's hitting a home run here. Amen, Charlie.
We would have protests. Wendy's would have, boy, I'll tell you right now, there would be 100 burned Wendy's around the world. I mean, and
that's what there was in 2020.
Every city. I mean, it would be so on top they'd start burning the Denny's.
Yep, they would.
They use Emmett Till 70 years later because of this. Because it's a case of a horrifying murder of an innocent black person by hateful whites. It's so rare they had to go back 70 years. But you know what? When a white person is murdered, we don't burn down the country. But when George Floyd overdosed on drugs, it's Floydapalooza. But for the opposite, we have to go back one day. Literally, there was another. You know, several happened this last week. Another white girl was just murdered by a black person in Alabama. A woman butchered walking her dog. There was also one that happened in South Carolina and one that happened in Virginia. That is 4 white women in the American South that just recently were butchered by black criminals. So we take a step back and say, well, what's really going on here? What's really going on here is a situation where Van Jones is acting like if I said something I did not say, when in reality, we're asking a very simple question, Mr. Jones. Very simple question, which is, will you apologize for all the criminal justice reform that you pushed forward that allowed these 14-time criminal offenders to walk the streets? Because you are the architect and the designer of constantly feeling bad for the criminal that then can kill more people like Irina Zarutska. And by the way, I did not bring up race. The attacker said, quote, I got that white girl, end quote. People say, why does the race matter? Oh, it matters because you made us care about race in the summer of 2020. Looks like you got to live up to the book of your own rules. The second that we make you live up to your ridiculous paradigm, you collapse like a house of cards.
And they do, Charlie. Well said. By the way, this image here, this is the one he talked about in Alabama, just near our home in southeast Alabama. It's near Auburn, the college there. This lady taught veterinary medicine at the school. She was just walking her dog, and this monster killed her just this week. 7 white females. And Greg Gutfeld mentioned it, folks. They targeting the females. Bear, you made the statement, there's nowhere safe. This is down south. This is down in the Bible Belt. This is down south. Charlotte's down south. All right. Now, I think we've said enough about that. I'll let you chime in on that in a minute. The other story tonight, and if you can stick around with me, it seems like you are, because we're not losing audience, we're gaining audience the longer we go into the night. This is Tom Homan's beatdown. I'm going to get to Israel last tonight. This is Tom Homan's beatdown of MSNBC about these illegals. You got to look at Minka's face this morning. This is how you handle a liberal network. Man, I'd like to just hug Tom Homan's neck, shake his hand, and thank him for the great job that he's doing as the borders are. The same parallel, folks, the same argument the left is making about the crime, they're making about these illegals. Pritzker and Johnson in Chicago have threatened Trump. You come to Chicago with your ICE, we're going to literally arrest the ICE agents. We're going to make it live in you know what on the ICE agents if you bring them here. This is the beatdown of beatdowns of the day.
I see on the show this morning you had Governor Healy talking about ICE doing enforcement operations at a church. False. Didn't happen.
They were parked there. They did not do an operation there. She said they were parked in a public space legally.
But to say that and to push that out there puts fear in the immigrant community. So let me tell you what's happening.
That puts fear in the community. To park the ICE agent's vehicle near a church. They are on a public street. She said
they're on a public street waiting to respond to a criminal alien release pulled aside the road. Let me tell you, in the last couple of days, what's happened in Boston.
Do you see the smugness on her face? That's the left. That's the meth-induced media. They don't care these illegals are raping 4-year-old children. Did you hear what one of the stories about the guy that mentioned the black guy raped a 4-year-old girl and got her pregnant with an STD, not pregnant, but gave her an STD, raping a 4-year-old child, folks. These are the kind of people ICE is pulling off the street. They're not disappearing people, Minka, but that's how the media frames it. I'm glad Tom Homan came fired up this morning. Me and him must be brothers.
Arrested Victor Gomez Paris, a 33-year-old criminal alien from Guatemala, with charges of aggravated rape, assault and battery with dangerous weapon, indecent assault and battery on a victim 14 years or younger. They arrested Kaylee Espinosa, a 33-year-old criminal alien from Colombia, with charges of aggravated assault on a pregnant victim. They arrested Joshua Gonzalez, a 23-year-old criminal alien from Dominican Republic, with charges for trafficking heroin, morphine, opium, resisting police, disorderly conduct, and drug distribution. They also arrested Samuel Armando Barrera, a 20-year-old criminal illegal alien from Guatemala, with pending charges for assault and battery on a child. So Mayor Wu and Governor Healy, they ought to be calling ICE and thanking them for making their streets safer, for protecting their communities and taking these people off the street. They have turned a blind eye to this. They're sanctuary cities. Sanctuaries, cities and sanctuary states are sanctuaries for criminals. Give ICE access to the jail to arrest a bad guy in the jail rather than have to go in the community to find them. Because when you go in the community and find them, puts ICE off.
And these mayors and these governors and all of these civil activists are doing everything they can to hide these illegals from ICE. These criminals, these rapists, and roll tape. Good job, Tom.
At greater risk. It puts the community at greater risk. It puts the alien at greater risk because anything can happen on a street arrest. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to prioritize public safety threats. When you got governors and mayors who are releasing these public safety threats every day into the community, that causes the crime rate. And we've seen some terrible incidents in the last few days where innocent victims are murdered. This past year, I've seen innocent Americans raped and murdered by people who are not supposed to be here.
Look at her face. Look at her face. That tells you everything you need to know about the media right there. That sums up their response to all of this and how they lie and they distort and they manipulate and they cause people, including many so-called Christians, to believe this crap.
So rather than go
what they're putting out, not what Tom Homan's putting out. You're hearing Tom tell you the facts.
Going back and forth, say, well, ICE has got a car parked near a church. That is ridiculous. You're out there looking for people like this. Exactly what they're doing.
I would argue that actually that the ICE vehicle parked outside a Spanish mass is a frightening sight.
The only person that an ICE vehicle parked outside a Spanish mass is frightening to, Minka, is somebody that is there criminally. A person that is upholding the law, a person that is not raping, a person that is not raping kids and trafficking kids and pushing fentanyl and meth on the streets, and somebody that's here legally, somebody that hadn't come into the country and just roamed the streets without any kind of due process. By the way, the due process, folks, is if they're wanting due process, well, let's talk due process. Their due process is to get their carcasses down to a citizenship hall and become citizens, like millions of others of legal people that have come into this country have done. No, the only people that's scary to Minka are the lawbreakers, and I hope they are scared. I hope they are scared. If you're here in this country illegally tonight, if you're doing these things and you're raping kids and murdering women and DUIing and pushing drugs, I hope you are scared. You need to be. You need to be very scared.
What has happened in this country?
And by the way, before I finish it, you pastors and you churches, you godless shepherds, you godless preachers, you godless denominations, you godless, demonically inspired churches that are protecting these criminals, you need to be shut down and scared too, because you're just as culpable, if not worse.
I also, with respect, sir, thank you for the information that you have shared on this show, but we would appreciate all of the information.
See, that is so condescending. All of the information. All the information. They don't want the information. They don't want the information. All right. I'm going to have to go back and listen to this one tomorrow and probably ask the Lord to forgive me for 60% of my own show tomorrow. All right, Will, tell them.
Now, why would that be? Why would one story demand 100 articles and another story 0 articles? And it's because the media is more interested in the all capitals story, the narrative, than the facts or the truth. Take a look at the difference here. I want to show you the actual truth when it comes to crime. The story is about race. Race. Take a look at the black on white crimes, 385,000 in 2023. The white on black crimes, just under 118,000. You see the comparative numerical difference. But now, here's what the media actually does. They did what our camera operator just began to do a moment ago. I'm going to step out of the way. I'm going to show you literally what the media does with the camera. They zoom in on this number. This number, devoid of context.
Devoid of context. He went on to say that those other numbers mean something too. You don't see those other numbers. It's good stuff. All right, one final thing tonight. It's late. I've been keeping you. How long have I kept you so far? I feel like I've kept you 15 minutes. I've kept you an hour and 25. I got to wrap this up. We're going to talk about this more Thursday. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. There are 6 Hamas leadership figures that are now in the great virgin hole in the sky. And they are dead tonight. And Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel had an attack today in Qatar. But I want you to look at one of these people. This is, I think, one of the people that were eliminated. He had just got up and proclaimed this here a few weeks ago.
امعطوا رقاب اليهود كلها هي تقف على العرق من هان 5 شيكل تشتري لك سكينه واضي مضيها وهنا على طول حزه 5 شيكل 5 شيكل انك تذل دولة الكافر لا تجدن اشد الناس عداوة للذين امنوا اليهود والذين اشركوا لقد افسد اليهود لقد تغطرس اليهود وآن الان حسابهم وآن الان تدميرهم على ايديكم.
That sounds like half of the prophetic community tonight. That sounds like half the prophets out there talking. I think that was not the ones that was eliminated. This one was. This is one of the Hamas leaders that were. We're going to talk about this more Thursday night. We got a lot of video on this. Roll tape. He said this January 15th of 2025. And I'll explain all this real quickly before we leave. If you got your questions, start putting them in. No paragraphs, folks, just questions.
تناثرت أشلاؤهم في هذه المعركة وإننا سنواصل على درب القادة الشهداء حتى النصر أو الشهادة بإذن الله. وما حدث في 7 من أكتوبر من إعجاز وإنجاز عسكري وإنجاز أمني قامت به نخبة القسام سيبقى مفخرة لشعبنا ومقاومتنا تتناقله الأجيال جيلا بعد جيل، وقد أصابت كيان العدو في مقتل، وسيستعيد شعبنا كامل حقوقه بإذن الله، وسيندحر هذا الاحتلال عن أرضنا وقدسنا ومقدساتنا عما قريب بإذن الله تعالى. وإنما قام به الاحتلال وداعموه من حرب إبادة وحشية.
He's blaming the war on Israel, not Hamas, for perpetrating it on October the 7th.
وجرائم نازية ومعاداة للإنسانية على مدار 467 يوما سيبقى محفورا في ذاكرة شعبنا والعالم وإلى الأبد.
The 467 days is the number of days since Israel invaded Gaza to remove these criminals and these terrorists from that region. And yes, it has been bloody. Yes, it has been destructive. Yes, there's been loss of life. But don't make any mistake about it, and let me not beat any bones about it, folks. This is on Hamas. They are the reason for the destruction, not Israel. They are the reason for the bloodshed and the killing and the hunger and the starvation in Gaza, not Israel. They are the ones committing genocide of their own people tonight, not Israel. This is a liar, a post-liar, I should say. The late Israel Yahamiah, or whatever his name is, Yeshil Hamaya. I can't pronounce these names. I would fail my history test if I had to say these names verbally. These are liars. But 6 of them, of the top brass of Hamas, won't be lying anymore.
كأبشع إبادة جماعية في العصر الحديث، ولن ينسى شعبنا كل من شارك في حرب الإبادة، سواء من وفر لها الغطاء السياسي والإعلامي أو من قدموا آلاف الأطنان من القنابل والمتفجرات التي أسقطت على رؤوس أهلنا وأبنائنا وبناتنا وأطفالنا في قطاع غزة. ونؤكد أن كل هؤلاء المجرمين سيلقون جزاء ما قدموا وفعلوا ولو بعد حين. لن ننسى ولن نغفر، نعم لن ننسى ولن نغفر. ففشل في تحقيق أي من أهدافه السرية أو المعلنة، فقد ثبت شعبنا في أرضه فلم يرحل ولم يهاجر، وكان الدرع الحصين لمقاومته. إن هذه المعركة التي بدأت من أجل القدس.
This was started for the sake of Jerusalem, folks. They're telling you their goal. They're telling you their goal. They're telling you their goal. They don't want peace. They want Jerusalem. They want to possess that land that Israel is on. They do not want coexistence. Mr. Macron, your name even sounds like crayon to a degree. Macron, that's his new nickname. Emmanuel Macron. You may want to rethink this Palestinian state issue because you just lost 6 of the main leaders of the Palestinian state.
وستبقى القدس والأقصى بوصلتنا وعنوان جهادنا ومقاومتنا حتى التحرير وإقامة الدولة المستقلة وعاصمتها القدس بإذن الله.
With Jerusalem as its capital. That's what they seek and desire. You Bible students in the morning, now I'll be up in the morning asking the Lord, I have to go back and listen to this show, and if I was ugly, I'll have to say, Lord, please forgive me before I go on the Bible study tomorrow. Folks, this stuff is, it's heartbreaking. It's maddening. It makes me angry. I hurt for that girl's family. I hurt for our country tonight that we've reached this state. I hurt for the Middle East. I hurt for the gullibleness of people. I hurt for the fact that the media has had such an influence on people and their thinking. Instead of listening to God, we listen to this godless media. Not all of us, but some do. The thinking of people. That video I just played to you of that guy in that green outfit, folks, that don't sound any differently than some of these networks out there and some of these social media types and these false prophets and all these people that are so anti-Semitic they can't see past their nose. It don't sound any different to me than what they're putting out. That's a spirit. That's something that's over us. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. All right. Listen, you got 5 to 10 minutes. If you got a question, you need to give it quick. Carol, I'm going to start with you. Carol Smith says, with Hamas leaders taken out, could this affect the fate of hostages? Carol, I wished I had a better answer for that, but I hate to tell you, I do not believe these hostages were ever destined to come home. I think Benjamin Netanyahu saw that, and he had given them one last shot this week. He demanded those hostages. President Trump demanded the hostages. They were not released. I don't think that, I hate to be pessimistic about it, but Israel was never going to get those hostages back. We're fortunate in America that we got all of our people back. There's no Americans in that group left that I know of. Some of those hostages Israel knows are dead anyway. They're just trying to get the bodies back for their families. And folks, let me tell you this. If Israel was such an apartheid state, if Israel was so evil, if Israel was the demagogue and the evil ogre that people make them out to be, you see, they care about life so much. They were willing to keep fighting for those hostages, even if it meant saving one life. That's why Israel. They care about life. They don't want one life lost. They were fighting to get those hostages back, to break this stronghold in Gaza, to save life. Now, that's not how the media paints it, certainly, and that's not how the church paints it. It's not how many social media types paint it. But Israel cared enough about those hostages that they were willing to keep fighting. And your question is a good one. I don't know. I don't think it's going to bode well for them. I think there was probably an order in place. If something happens to us, you know what to do. And I would not be surprised if in the next few days we get word that those hostages have been executed. What's left of them? I think I heard 50 was the last count I heard. There's 50 or so, but some of them Israel knows that they've already been told that they are dead. So it's not 50 alive ones. It's some that they're trying to get the body back for, out of respect for the family. But yeah, it's going to have an effect. It will have an effect. Mary, they do want a world caliphate. They want a world caliphate. That's what exactly they want. Chris Davis, you're asking the wrong question. You say, how can these people on CNN, MSNBC, and other networks side with murderers and criminals? When I see the word, how can they do something? How can people think this way? How can Hamas do this? How can this network believe that? And CJ, your question was along the same lines about why does the networks do this? How? Folks, y'all are asking the wrong questions. That is not one we can answer. You need to go ask them. I can't tell you why they do this other than the devil himself. Other than the devil themselves, that's about it. Because it's evident, it's clear these people don't have a conscience. So you're going to beat your head against the wall trying to figure out why. I'll just say this, they are of their father. They're of their father. I'll just leave it at that. They are of their father, the devil. That's why. And that's how. But to put a moral compass on that and put a moral clarity on that, you can't do it. None of us can do it. I would even ask the question, Chris, how can Christians believe some of the stuff they believe? How can Christians put stuff out that they do? How can they do it with a straight face and a clean conscience, say the things they say about Israel, say the things they say about this country, say the things they say about Trump? And I didn't get into it tonight, but folks, that meeting at that hotel was very likely put in play by Trump himself. He may have been orchestrating to bring these Hamas leaders out in the open and giving Bibi Netanyahu, Netanyahu, a play-by-play, they were probably talking behind the scenes, and a lot of it has to do with this airplane. And when he took that airplane, I cannot tell you the number of posts that I saw on social media of Christians that excoriated Trump and called him every name in the book. 666, the Antichrist, sellout, traitor. He's making a secret deal with our enemies. He's making a secret deal with Israel's enemies and just trashing him left and right. Come to find out, that whole plane deal was probably a ruse to get the Hamas leadership out in the open, to make them come to Qatar thinking it was a safe haven now because Qatar and America were buddy-buddy, and that they didn't think that Netanyahu would dare do anything against Trump's good buddy in the Middle East, because see, that's how the Arabs think. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So Trump had a hand in this. We may not know the full explanation of that, but you had Christians calling Trump every name in the book. So, Chris, to add to your question, it's another maddening thing to figure out why Christians believe the stuff they do. I would answer that question, but I don't have time to do it. Jenny says, I heard that people are thinking these things. They're so evil and wrong. They are evil and wrong. Debbie and Pat Dolan, good to see y'all tonight. They say, we fear we're approaching a point of no return of lawlessness in our country. We're getting close, Pat. We're getting close, Deb. Corey says they are manipulating emotionally things to sway the audience. They've always done that, my buddy. Good to see you tonight. They are pathological liars. Liz Golden, yes, they hear what they want to hear, and truth means nothing. That is very true. That is very true. Any questions? Now, you folks in Facebook, y'all are asking questions. Anybody in YouTube, if you got a question, some of you are asking how these people still working. Folks, again, asking the wrong question. The left-wing media is not going to turn on itself. Look, unless somebody just goes out there and when the left-wing media goes away is when people stop sponsoring it and the money goes away. That's when you're going to see things happen. But there has been some house cleaning, David, a little bit of that. But I don't ask the question, how are they still working? My question is, how are people still listening to it? Because left-wing media is never going to change. They're always going to be this way. They've always been this way, honestly. Anyway. CJ, you say that I see that someone opened a Nutella candy shop in Gaza. Thought they said people were starving in Gaza. Israel is trying to help and do right, but our networks believe otherwise. CJ, I heard about the Nutella shop. I've heard about a lot of things in Gaza that the media's not reported on. The UN is basically covering for Hamas, keeping them food trucks. But it's not just the network, CJ. It's not just the networks. It's Christians. It's people of faith that believe this stuff too. You got people of faith out there posting the same anti-Semitic rhetoric and the lies of the left and the lies of Hamas. Look, as I said, that video I played of that guy in the green that was basically so anti-Semitic and hateful that you could get about Jews, I don't hear any difference between him and half the stuff I see on most of these prophetic websites. At least so-called. Anyway. All right, if you've got nothing else, I'm going to let you go. Here's BB's statement today, and I will say this. It says, though there was a time when Jews could be murdered with impunity, but since the founding of the state of Israel, those days are over. I would disagree with a little bit of what he said, that since the refounding, Mr. Netanyahu, I respect you, and I'm praying for you, and I love you, but Israel wasn't founded in 48. She was reformed. She's been on this earth a long time. And when the smoke clears, she's going to be on this earth still. I got to say something this morning. We got a comment in the Bible study. I'll wrap it up on this tonight. I know it's late. Did y'all enjoy the show tonight? If you did, put some fire in that house. Put some fire in that house. Somebody got upset about this flag right here. We got a nasty, nasty comment. They said this is a disgusting symbol for all Americans. The symbol behind you there. And there's a reason why I made that flag. There's a reason why I made a canvas of that. To illustrate the bond between America and Israel. It wasn't to be disrespectful of my country. I'm an American. But before I'm an American, I'm a believer. I am a believer in Jesus Christ tonight. I thank God that He's forgiven me of my sins. He's washed me in His blood. He's put my name down in the Lamb's Book of Life because I put my faith in what He did for me 2,000 years ago on a cross. And without Him, I would be eternally lost tonight. I would be in eternal darkness and forever, ever without hope of any salvation of eternal life when the life of this on this earth ends. He came into His own. His own is the nation of Israel. He came to His own people. They received Him not. But one day they're going to receive Him. And I'll go out with this tonight. I've had to do this several times because we've gotten similar comments before about this flag. Folks, the Bible is 1,000,000% clear about the future and the end of this nation. Now, she's going to go through hell to get there. 2/3 of her people are going to perish during the Great Tribulation period. But the Bible tells us that there's going to be a remnant that's going to survive, and she will accept Christ at the end of that tribulation period. It will look like she's going to be totally destroyed, but she is going to survive. The one thing the Bible has always been silent about, and it's a scary silence, has been this nation here, which is my nation. It's my nation. Politically speaking, I'm an American. I was born here in Atlanta, Georgia. Before they even invented writing, according to some. No, I was born in 1965 on a winter day, January the 11th, in Atlanta, Georgia. The Bible is completely 100% silent about the future of this one. What does that tell me tonight? It tells me several things, but one thing it tells me is this, that the future of this one is tied to our handling of this one. Because if this one survives, and the Bible's clear about that, and it's not clear about our survival, that means that we've got a choice of whether we're blessed or cursed tonight. And I pray we take the road of blessing. I really do. But if we keep cursing and we don't stand up as Christian believers, and we don't stand up for what's right, and pray for the peace of this great nation city, this capital city of Jerusalem, whom the Arabs want, folks. They do not want Israel to possess any of Jerusalem. You heard the guy say it, the former Hamas leader. He was one of the ones killed today in that strike in Yemen, in Qatar. They have told you their game plan. Jerusalem will never be in the hands of the Arabs. And I want to tell the Arab world tonight, I love you. God loves you. He does not want you pursuing this path of violence that you're pursuing. If you continue down this path, you're going to come into a confrontation with the God of heaven that's called the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Let me make it clear to you, He's not called the God of Allah and the God of Muhammad, because Muhammad is not even a true faith leader. He was a pedophile in a desert. Allah is not even a real being. The God of heaven is real. He's divine, but He loves you tonight. He loves you tonight. And He does not want to see you keep pursuing blood, because if you keep pursuing blood, as I told my wonderful, beautiful Bible class this morning, when you pursue blood, blood will pursue you. Blood will pursue you. And that's where we're at. Now, I think I've got my money's worth out of this one. And I'm grateful you've stayed up with me late. We've had a record audience tonight. It's been a wonderful Tuesday night. And I'm going to get you out of here before Wednesday. We'll be back here in the morning on the Faith Side. Tomorrow night, Marcia Montenegro, 6 o'clock with our Faith Chat on all networks. And then our midweek Bible study. Wrapping up Laodicea tomorrow night. We ain't even talking about the rapture stuff. There's crazy, crazy, crazy story. Even the mainstream media is picking up this nonsense that this South African prophet claimed that Jesus came to him recently and told him that next Tuesday week, Rosh Hashanah, he's coming back on the 25th. They put a date on it even. Even the mainstream media is saying he's coming back this month. He might come back this month. I don't know. He may or may not. But I can tell you what, he didn't tell that prophet that. He won't be telling anybody that. And anybody that shares that crap out, I'll just leave it at that. We'll save that for our face show tomorrow night. We'll save that for our face show. I'm already in trouble as it is tonight. All righty, I'm done. God bless you. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. And may the Lord bless you tonight. We hope you had a good time. It's a good show tonight. I hope you had a good one. And Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. It was a late night Tuesday in the McFiles. My neighbors got an earful whether they wanted to or not. Surprised we don't have cops showing up at this house. Sometimes we get loud here. May the Lord bless you tonight. I'll see you back here tomorrow night, okay? And tomorrow morning. And in between, we've got a special show coming up Thursday on 9/11. We'll tell you about that tomorrow. And we'll be in Tulsa September the 19th and the 20th. Until tomorrow, McDonald out on a Tuesday. Good night, everybody.